I do want to start off by bringing up the filmmaking team. Please welcome producer and editor Jason Reid, director, cinematographer, producer Reid Harkness, and the very Sam himself. Wow, this is really neat. I met Reid and Jason last year at the Bend Film Festival. I had a film there myself called Bad X, which was also a personal doc, dealt with issues of generational trauma among others, and it's kind of cool to be here, over a year later and to have this conversation with you all, so thank you. Reid, I want to start with you. So making these personal documentaries, at least from my experience, there's so much discovery that happens along the way, and I think, asking you 20 years ago, oh, are you planning on making this entire film? Your answer probably would have been no. So I'm curious, when was the moment for you when the story became very clear about everything you were shooting, all of this great archive, all this, when did you realize that you had this film and you had this story come together? What moment was that for you?
Damn, that's a good question, David. Also, I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for being here and doing this with us. I'm really honored, and it's just so cool to be connected to another filmmaker who works this way. I also want to thank Sue Kim for hosting and introing and giving such a beautiful starting point. And to answer your question, I was devoted to many things in this movie, and one of the ideas was growth and what does growth look like, and that was never shown to me until the end. But the moment that you might be thinking of that comes to this, we get to a conclusion, really comes about with Sam's moment at the end where we're standing out on the rocks and he's like, I think that's enough time. I think that I can, this is about right for me right now. And I think that it's getting to that idea of complexity in relationship. That was the piece where I was like, okay, I see how this character, my brother, has come from this place of, I just want to get my mom back, to a place of, hey, maybe we need to take it slow and do this in a different way.
Thank you for sharing, and Sam, thank you for your courage and just letting Reid just keeping the camera rolling for over 20 years. This is one of the best coming of age films I've seen, and we're seeing it through your perspective, so much of it. And I'm curious, now that the film has been out there, it's been at so many festivals, has touched so many people's hearts. Have you had a moment to just kind of reflect and sit and gain perspective of how this has touched other people and where you are at now in your life?
Yeah, I mean, it's actually been kind of a longer break since the last time I've engaged with the film or any kind of screenings or festivals till now, which was a good break, but also, gave me a little more time to realize or to take a look at what was happening, what had happened. I think I'm owning the story a lot more. While it was happening and I was experiencing it in real time, it's hard to own the story. It's hard to be like, that's me up there and there's a full movie about me. It's a very weird thing to ego-wise to see happen, and you kind of I want to disown it sometimes. And at the same time, there's pieces that I don't even recognize of myself in it. There's the identities I wish were much more forward. I am a world-class Frisbee player. a lot
It's
of you
true.
all know me as the kid whose mom disappeared, right? So it's like, that is an identity of mine, but it's not the most forward one I have, and like that was always hard to like watch, like everything I try to like put forward of myself isn't fully represented in the movie, and as much as like, yeah, Reid and Jason really try their best to put a full me forward. Doesn't necessarily always come through the way I think it should come through. But yeah. So it's coming to realize like it's okay for that idea and imagery of me to like be out there now. Like I've owned it a lot more.
That's a lot. It takes a lot of courage and a lot of bravery. Thank you for sharing. And Jason, I want to talk about. By the way, we are going to open up questions to the audience, so please think of some. But I want to talk about this collaboration process. You know, when you're working, you know, director, editor, that relationship, it's so key, and it's created, you know, time and time again, directors work with the same editors. And, you know, Jason, I remember speaking with you after I watched this film, and I shared that one of my favorite moments was when the camera turns on Reid. And I think you're filming, right, Sam?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that felt like the intention of the film, as far as what a lot of your motivation was coming through in the sense where I could sense the love that you had for Sam in that scene. But I believe you said that was a tough thing for you to want to include in the initial cut. So, you know, I'm curious, you know, why the hesitancy there, and then now that you watch it, do you feel that was the right move, including that part of the film?
Is that to me or to
Well,
Jason?
I can start it out. So yeah, I think Reid, if he had it his way, that scene wouldn't have been in the film. But Darren, my long-term editing partner, and I were like, there's no way we're gonna finish this movie and not include that scene. Like, non-negotiable. If I was gonna put my stake into like one thing, it was gonna be, sorry, we aren't cutting that scene. But I think that, you know, it was just I think that one thing that's cool about Reid and I is we're one day apart in age. I'm one day older. I was born, and we lived around the corner from each other as kids. So I kind of grew up with the front row seat of the Harkness family. I remember Sam as just like, as young, I don't know, a couple years old or whatever. And I remember that resiliency then of him as a little kid playing and stuff. But I think that that's what's so special and close about this project for me, is just that like these are people that I grew up with and that I've known for 30 years. And Reid and I didn't stay in touch through our teenage years and in our 20s, and we both became filmmakers separately. And we reconnected in, I think it was like 2005 when this was officially called Sam Now at that point, and Reid had gotten a couple of grants, and I went to the Sam shows down in Portland, and they showed all 5 of the Sam films with live score screened off of Super 8. And I remember being like really inspired by the films, and you know, I went on to make a bunch of documentary features. In 2015, I reconnected with Reid, and we agreed to like partner on Sam Now and finally finish it. And from that point on, it took another 7 years to finish the movie. But I will say, to Sam's thing, we had a Raging Bull-esque montage of Sam's ultimate Frisbee career that was, even had the music from Raging Bull as a temp score, but it didn't make the final cut. It was just a couple of clips. And then Reid, do you want to respond to the scene?
I do want to rebut. I like, yeah, everything you said has truth, but the thing was like, I always knew that scene was going to make it in the movie where I'm in the family room addressing the family. I always knew it was going to be in. I just needed to see it without the scene in order to understand the story arc, because I'm such an emotive person that there's a quality of upstaging Sam, who's still working through his, you know, trying to get to his vulnerability. And I reveal that, which brings the viewer to a place of like, oh, I immediately identify with that person. So it was a process move where I was like, I want to see the movie without it so I can understand the arc.
We did that a lot actually. Like our guiding force was this is Sam's story, and when different characters in the film started upstaging what Sam's story, we wanted to always kind of bring it back to Sam as much as possible and his experience. So.
Well, it was beautifully included, and I very much felt the love that was coming through for what you had for Sam in there. So I'm glad it stayed in.
Thank you. I also want to respond to, this is a moment where, as a director, I had to step away to kind of let the editors direct a little bit and say, like, what is it that you see in this? Because I'm going to be too much of a self-editor here. So you do the scene how you guys see it.
That's great. Audience, do we have anyone would like to ask some questions? Yes, sir.
I love the film, and I'm totally with you about just about the importance of that scene. It was like utterly critical. You guys did a great job. I'm curious, with the 10 years later part, did you actually think the film was done at that point? Did you see it, just the mystery of your mother and finding her as the story, and then just, or did you feel at the time it still needed an ending, another ending?
I saw a potential ending. I saw that there was a road trip and there was a reconnection. But as revealed in the movie, I don't feel resolve as a filmmaker and as a family member. And I have a lot of burning questions that stem from this connection moment. So this is where the craft of patience really comes in. And I think that you're somebody that can understand this, but it's really hard to explain. Maturity has to happen for me, maturity has to happen for Sam. Everybody involved actually has to go through a meditative process in order to get to a movie like this. And that's my favorite thing about it.
I think also we went from making 5 to 10 minute Super 8 films together to all of a sudden trying to do a documentary about this. And I had no idea what a timeline would look like for what hours you need of footage. I didn't know that at all. I was used to let's use 4 rolls of Super 8 film, and that's a movie. That's a movie you got right there, which adds up to maybe 20 minutes of total footage or something. But to have that amount was, I definitely thought we were done. I was like, that's it. We shot so much footage, we have a movie, that's it. I found my mom, that's an ending, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
And Sam, how involved were you in just in the process of, did you show Sam cuts of this? Was that something that you wish you were more involved in? I'm just kind of curious because there's such a bond between you guys. So just talking about that process when we're in the editing room, we're starting to get our first rough cut, our second rough cut. What are you showing to Sam? How involved is Sam in this process?
This will be fun. So, I had the conversation. We had the talk. I'm gonna make this movie. I'm gonna edit this movie. It's happening. It's on. We got funding, and I was kind of okay, well, how involved do you want to be in seeing stuff? And Sam this is what I remember from the conversation. He was just I trust you to make this film, but you have to tell the story. What's complicated about that is all the language that I've learned with my brother plays into how I tell that story, what my voice is. Every edit involves questioning this. Sorry guys, this is exact voice of in my grandma's living room. But dudes, it's something else to do a project like this, and Sam's been so giving, so I don't know how to explain it, except I just had to lean in really far to how I understood us. Does that make sense?
You did it so beautifully, and I think it very much does, and that trust is so important between the documentary and director and the subject, and I think you very much did so much justice, and thank you to Sam for giving you that trust. It's so important.
I do want to give Sam an opportunity to respond to how you remember the conversation going.
I mean, I do remember like kind of more anxiety. The more money that got involved and the more people, even though Jason, who I knew from childhood, but getting more people involved, that I was like, I don't know what kind of story they want to tell of me. And then there's money involved now, there's deadlines, there's like all this stuff that like a little bit more pressure. And I have Reid as this like protector, barrier, he's been that role my whole life, like forever and ever. So I know I can trust him in that. So it was very much like, I trust you to tell a story, even though I know there's these things that are kind of like stressful coming up now. Again, yeah, money, more people, like everything else. The stakes are higher than they've ever been in any of the movies ever made together. I really just trusted you.
I'll just add that Sam did not see the film until a couple hours before our Hot Docs world premiere, and Reid and Sam watched the film in the hotel room right before walking over to the world premiere of the film, which it made me. I was like, God, I hope he likes it.
Right before this moment, Sam, like, we were about to watch it on my laptop before going into like a really nice theater, and then he's like, I feel this pressure to like be a part of the team and support the movie, but I have no idea how I'm gonna respond to this, and I might like crawl away into a cave for 2 weeks. So then we push play.
Thank you for sharing that. I think we have time for maybe 2 more questions. Yes, sir.
Has Joyce seen the film? And if so, how do you think she feels about it? And how do you feel about her watching the film?
The question is, has Joyce seen the film, and how do you feel about her watching it? What has her reaction been?
To my knowledge, she hasn't watched the movie. She has told me that she's decided not to watch the movie. I invited her in many different ways to watch it, including like, hey, let's do a little private screening, just me and you, see, and we can talk about it, have a conversation. And she decided she wasn't going to engage with it. As far as I know. You may know something else.
Yeah, I don't know any better. I'm pretty sure I don't think she has either, but I definitely live pretty nervously that she would see it, and she's like lashed out at me before, and like I worry about that a little bit.
And one thing I do want to add on to that, Reid, you give her an opportunity, and even when while watching it, some audience members I hear kind of scoffing, you give her the opportunity to share her side of the story, why she is the way she is, to present her in this empathetic way. And you didn't have to do that, but you did. And by the end, we still see that she stands behind what's the decision to leave. But I'm kind of curious, what was the instinct behind that? What motivated you to give her a chance to speak for herself?
Thanks, David. I think in all the ways I could in this project, I kept leaning into the hard thing. Why? I don't know. I think there's many layers. One is, as Sam said, I became an extra protective older brother, and I saw that Sam really wanted a relationship with his mom. And I couldn't understand this concept of a mother just being able to walk away from her children, because the way I know my biological mom, she could never do that. So I wanted to understand, and I also saw that Sam and Jared weren't really prepared to like lean into these harder questions, and somehow I have the capacity. So I don't know what that is either. Like, I don't know if it's something that's like, hey, I want to give you this gift, or if it's, I need to know. I don't understand that part.
Yeah, I'll say that I appreciate it a lot too, because having kind of complicated racial identities, Jared and I both presenting very white, right? We have oppressor identity plus this adopted Japanese heritage identity with no cultural connection, right? I really appreciate the humanizing of it all, and I think that it's so hard to describe to people like what the colonization and all that has done to like harm my family out of adoption, right? So like there's all these things that's just like, yeah, I don't know. I appreciate any description of it, anybody trying to describe it, because it's so hard for me. You know, when I talk to people, I'm just like, I'm white, and it's too hard for me to tell you exactly what I am. Like a white Japanese, like out of adoption person, because of war, because of occupation, because of all this stuff. Like that's my racial identity, and I appreciate that it's like on film.
Yes.
First of all, thank you so much for that film. It's intense, it's heavy, it's powerful. The impact of your lived experience is so palpable. You've scratched the surface on something that is so huge and, as you noted, complex, multifaceted in all of its layers. And the way or fashion in which you've constructed this film, so expertly done, I'm keen to know what its trajectory it is and how you plan to connect with others out there, because there are so many layers and so many people who will be impacted by the layers in this film. So much just touched upon, whether that element of mental illness or abandonment or narcissism or so much. So I'm curious to know its trajectory from here.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, as a filmmaker, all I can do is sort of like help this sort of thing that is made to reach people like you. And it's sort of like one audience at a time. It's also on the Criterion channel. And I believe that this kind of film will continue to be something that people access, because it does a unique thing in a specific way to reach people. So trajectory is, we just can, you know, for as long as I have energy, we'll keep on putting it out there.
One thing that's really cool is we aired on Independent Lens in May, which made the film available to like all audiences nationwide on public television. And the Criterion channel is really an honor for us, because we grew up with like Criterion DVDs with extra features, and the fact that Criterion has kind of endorsed the film by picking us up for their streaming channel is like, I don't know, it's about as big of an honor as you could have for us. So I mean, that's another way it will live on. And we also, if you go, we did an impact campaign in the spring around our theatrical, where we did a lot of screenings where we brought out mental health experts to different screenings and had Q&As and discussions that were really in depth. Like sometimes the Q&As went like over an hour. And we have on our website it's the Now You campaign, so Sam Now You, and there's a bunch of resources and information related to the topics we bring up in the movie. And we hope to continue to do impact screenings. Like Reid said, this documentary filmmaking thing is like so intense, and I think we both kind of burned out over the summer after there was like such a big push between theatrical and broadcast and VOD, and then it was like, oh my God, we gotta catch our breaths and catch up on life. But I think that now we're taking the film out even more widely with the PBS and the Criterion release and stuff, and hope that more people can continue to see it and be exposed to it. So.
And just to add to that, part of the responsibility for you as audience members is to help with that, because especially, this is an indie doc, it's made by TBS, there's not a whole lot often financial resources that go into marketing and promoting a film like this. So a lot of it is just word of mouth, audience members. So the power of social media is incredible. So I urge you that, if this was a film you connected with and feel like there is a possibility for impact beyond what you just watched, it's on us to send that message, promote it, and get it out there. And I think I said we had one more question, and I think we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, sorry, I know you said one or two. Also love the film. But I had a question that kind of arose when Joyce went to go see your dad, and kind of the casualness of what the way she was acting. And then you kind of touched on it 10 years later when you said that she was kind of angry with you and showing this side. And I feel as though like you also have managed things with like humor and trying to diffuse situations. So was there ever a time where you were interacting and joking around that kind of triggered her, and like you saw more of that kind of side of her where she really didn't want you to joke about the abandonment or like any feelings about that, just more aggression on her side?
Reid, you're probably gonna have to answer more to this, because I'll wholeheartedly say that I was almost in this like state of disbelief the entire time that was happening. And I think you see me like when I'm like decorating my Halloween costume or something, I'm just like talking about things that's like there's imagery that I never thought would ever happen again in my life, which is my mom being in my grandma's house and my mom being in my dad's house, them talking to each other. So those two things shocked me so hard to the core that like my processing was slow and just like not even there while it was happening. So I couldn't even tell you like, my memory of it is not great because of that. And I think like watching it on film, like I didn't even know that's what she was saying the whole time, because I was in this like state. I was like, this is dreamlike. This is not supposed to happen anymore. Like this is, yeah. I don't know how you feel.
Yeah, there's a lot of layers that are in like what Sam's saying. It's like things that you find in the edit room, things that you find as a cinematographer that's a family member, like extra levels, like these are beyond normal human experience. And sometimes I think we were watching a show or a movie or a documentary and you're just like, wow, I can see so much here. Like, why can you see it? You can see it because he worked really hard at it. I worked really hard at it. And, going into this place of Joyce showing her hand, it's really confusing. I'm a stepson of hers, and I did see her lashing out with my dad when I was young. And I was the recipient of some outbursts. But this is my household. So this is normal. When you're within a pattern that is your home, it is normal. And when we peel back and we go into Joyce's origin, her normal was also very challenged. And I think that this is where these sort of generational patterns and generational cycles that Sam starts bringing up need to be examined. And I hope that also in making this film, that does a chunk, and it helps other families to start to chip away.
Yeah, there's a quote. I don't know who said it, but it's when we're able to heal ourselves, when it comes to generational trauma, we're able to heal 7 generations back and 7 generations forward. And I'm happy to hear that you seem like you're in a good place and you're able to recognition is a key thing. So thank you again, Sam. Thank you, Reid. Thank you, Jason, for telling such a beautiful story. Let's please give him a round of applause. I'm sure they'll give him a question. And we want to remind you that there are Grandma Doris's cookies waiting for you as you exit the theater. A recipe, and Doris passed away, I guess, maybe 6 months ago. Is that right?
February.
Yeah.
And this is one of her favorite cookie recipes.
This was what like the kid favorite. This was the audience vote. We kids loved these thumbprint cookies with jam centers, and it has boysenberry jam, which is kind of a Northwest thing. So grab a cookie on your way out. We'll be out there if you guys want to talk to us a little bit more.
Yeah, thank you all for coming out. We appreciate you doing that. Yeah.